Two other techniques that you can use are adding salt or using paper, wax paper, or plastic wrap. Both work really well. This creates more of a texture. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just filling this with the wet on wet. I had a little bit of a spillover from the etching. That's okay. That's just fine. What I'll do here is then just add blue. Now this is my salt method. When you use salt, you need to have a lot of pigment. You need to have a very wet surface, a wet piece of paper. Otherwise it doesn't work. Then I'm using the salt. I'm just taking the smallest pinch and I'm placing some salt down. What that salt does is it actually absorbs the water around it and it creates a texture, and I'll show you that in just a minute. The next one is paper. And like I said, you can use wax paper. Wax paper gives it one effect. And then plastic wrap is another thing that you can use. We're using wax paper today. So I wrinkled it up and then I flattened it out. I want to keep it nice and flat when it's time to go onto the surface. I'm creating a wet on wet method again. When I load my brush this time, I'm going to use a ton of pigment. I'm going to keep going back in there. For some reason, I think the darker pigments work a little bit better as well. So if you choose to use yellow, I'd add a little bit of brown in with that. Add some blue here, get some dark colors. And then you simply just place your piece of paper on top. You want it to stick down. And this is going to create a texture after it dries. Now I have two pieces that are over here. Here's the salt method. You can see how it kind of crystallized. Here's another one that I did earlier, how it crystallizes. This is with wax paper, or I'm sorry, plastic wrap. And here's the wax paper one. It should be dry now when I pull this up. You can see wherever the wax paper touched my paper, it became very, very dark. It kind of gives a nice random look to it. So I want you to try the salt and the texture.